For the last 2 episodes of the Bulldog Intern, we have taken a deep dive into how athletes carry out cadet life when balancing academics. Wrestling may have a team, but the sport relies on you and no one else. When you're on the mat, staring down your opponent, you are the one making takedowns and combinations. At the Citadel, the core of cadets are tightly knit. We have a corps and a battalion and companies where teams are formed through and through. There are squad leaders you can lean on and your classmates that see you every day. But when it comes to academics, you're the ones making the grades and the ones graduating at the end of the day. So, how does someone who plays a sport as intense and individualist as wrestling navigate this challenge? Luckily for you, we will receive a special insight from Thomas Snipes, a junior at the most rigorous military college out there and a redshirt sophomore for the Citadel wrestling team. I'm interested to learn how he balances athletics and cadet life. So tune in, Bulldogs. I'm Alethea Morse, and this is the Bulldog Intern Show. So Thomas, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm glad you can come in today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So the purpose of this podcast is just to figure you out, like, why are you here? What's going on? How do athletes mix their cadet life and their academic life and their athletic life, obviously, with everything? So the first question I'm going to ask you is, why the Citadel? And what's the main aspect that drew you here?
Absolutely. That's a great question. In high school, I was getting recruited by a handful number of schools across the East Coast and a little bit to the West, not too much. But I kind of always knew I was going to come here at the Citadel because I am, I'm from Greenville. I wrestled in South Carolina. I kind of take pride in where I'm from. South Carolina is not really good at wrestling, such as we are in baseball and football. So I kind of wanted to put us on the map a little bit in the college level. And Coach LeBlanc, he actually came from App State and took the job at the Citadel. I always liked what he was about, and he was actually the first coach to call me. I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing, and he was the first coach to contact me. He was always there, in high school tournaments, making sure I was good, keeping up to date. No college coach really ever did that, and he actually did a home visit when I was 17 as well. He drove 3 hours right after practice and came to my house and, laid it out for me. And, right when he closed the door, my mom said, "That's where you're going to go." We like him and we like what he's about, so that's why.
That's so cool. I'm so glad that you got that experience. Did you know that it was going to be as rigorous as it was whenever he came to your house and was talking to you about it?
Yeah. I probably knew about 75% of it because my cousins came here actually. I think one was maybe 2014 and one's 2016 or something. They're brothers. So, before I obviously made my decision, I called them and asked them, what do you think? How was it? Well, I like it. I mean, they know me. And they said it's going to be tough. And they basically walked me through what it was going to look like. And I even called him the day before Hell Week. And he kind of just gave me, the blueprint of what to expect, what's going to happen, and then what I'm going to feel during the time. And he was 100% right.
That's so cool. Speaking of Challenge Week, what was the difference between an Athlete's Challenge Week and a regular cadets?
Well, I did the regular cadets
really?
one.
Okay.
Yeah, I did the regular one. So the football team, they do the AthCad.
Okay.
So I was actually mixed in with all the other cadets reporting. I think it was August 16th of 2022. And yeah, I did the regular one. Okay,
that's so cool. So whenever it came to training, what did you train during Hell Week or did you just go right after?
Yeah, it was right after we had started training, and I was still kind of shaken up from Hell Week, and I was not in the mental space to just go right into training. So it was really hard to juggle it around right after Hell Week because I was still kind of mixed brained and. You had a lot of discombobulation after the week.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Right.
It's always tough. So with the training, so what's your everyday like? Could you walk me through just what you do on a daily basis? One for out of season and one for in season?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So for in season, I like to get extra work in. You're not going to you'll be a good wrestler by, following just a training schedule and, just doing what I call the bare minimum. And bare minimum is just showing up and giving, good effort. That's the bare minimum for me. So that's not what I do. So I'll wake up around 7 o'clock and go grab a coffee, and then first things first, I got to get an extra 45-minute drill in with my coach, and this is in season, obviously. So my coach meets me there about 7:30. We get about an hour workout in. I get X amount of takedowns, extra. I get some extra cardio, and this is all before I start my day. And then I go eat breakfast with the guys who are just waking up, and we eat breakfast, and I go to class. And then after class, what I would like to do, and this was in season, I kind of sit down when I have a break and watch some wrestling. I'm trying to constantly learn. And if I'm not, watching wrestling, I'll try to do something where I can keep my mind up. And then maybe lay down before practice at 4. And then, obviously eating in between. And then after practice, I'll do all my schoolwork, which is pretty easy because the Citadel gives you a kind of a, blocked out time to do some schoolwork as well. So I've never really had trouble with school either.
Nice. What is the hardest day that you've had here?
The hardest day? Ooh, oh my goodness, there's a lot of them.
I know.
The hardest day, I would have to say, doesn't relate to school or athletics. I would say when I got here. Okay. The first day I got here, that was probably the hardest day. And then I kind of just got a little bit tougher in between. But when I got here, I wasn't tough. So I would say the first day I got here.
That's funny. So I know as a cadet, I see that there's kind of a split between regular cadets and then athletes. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, I think, and I'm guilty of it too. But I think we both have a naiveness of what we each do. All right. I think that cadets look at us, athletes, and I'm going to include everybody in this, and say what, they don't do what we do. What we do is harder. They don't even win as much. Some of the teams don't have a winning record or this and that. They believe that what we're doing is kind of bogus. And you know what? There's a handful of athletes that that are in that category. And I think it's the same with the athletes. I think that we believe that what they do isn't maybe as hard or adequate to what we do. And I think it's just a general naiveness that belongs in both groups. I think that's kind of how it is, really.
So how would you go about fixing that? Would you just have an information thing where you push out information from both sides, or how would you do that?
I would think it's just, what I've done. I've never really had problems specifically with a lot of individuals, and that's because I give them their respect. And, I tell them, I get that you're doing a job. I get that you have a job. And I respect what you do, but I also need you to respect what I do. As in, like the other day, it was something about formation or something like this. And I'm like, listen, I get that you're doing your job. I understand that, but you got to understand I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I'm trying to get better at what I'm trying to do. You're trying to do what you're trying to do to get better. So it's kind of just having a mutual respect within each other's jobs and boundaries.
I see. Is there anything that you wish anyone would ask you, like faculty, staff, specifically in the academic department, because I know they have no idea what you guys do?
Like a question that I wish that they would ask me? That's a good question. I guess maybe just ask me about the daily life of a wrestler, because I think that, now obviously I'm biased, but I think wrestling is the hardest sport in the world. I mean, even some MMA fighters, which in my opinion is the toughest sport in the world, they say wrestling is still the hardest sport in the world. And, I would kind of like to spread some of that, because I don't think that a lot of people understand what we actually go through and the mental battles that we face regarding to wrestling, as in cutting weight, making sure that we're mentally prepared to go up against somebody who's really good and be able to beat them, and just navigating our life problems and, thinking about just how to get better every single day. And I just don't think a lot of people are able to shed light on actually how hard that is.
Yeah. It's really insightful. Has your Citadel cadet career or Citadel wrestling career helped you in either of the areas? Like, has your wrestling helped you with your cadet life, or has your cadet life helped you in wrestling at all?
Yeah, I think they both go hand in hand pretty well. So, one thing that I learned, or that I've learned throughout being at the Citadel that wasn't, kind of beat into me, it was just kind of an awakening, was I can adapt to anything as of now. Like I said, when I got here, I wasn't tough. I thought I was. Yeah, so adapting to, being a knob, and then learning to balance all this and all this, it was kind of like a sprint instead of a marathon. And after that year, I kind of learned that I could adapt to anything, small or large. So that has actually helped me in my wrestling as well, when said that there's someone in the conference that's a lot better than me, and, it's going to be my goal to beat him. Well, I've done so many hard things when I was 18 years old, coming here and juggling a whole lot of things. I can juggle being able to, gun this guy down and beat him. Yeah. So that's one thing where cadet life has helped me in wrestling, and I think wrestling helps me in cadet life by just being, extra disciplined. I'm cutting a lot of weight. Or not a lot of weight, no. I cut a lot of weight when I was a freshman, sophomore. I'm not cutting much weight anymore, but, I make weight. I get my body down to, low fat percentage and, not eating as much meals and drinking a lot of water. So that kind of hellish phase what I go through kind of helps me be disciplined, and some of the things that I don't want to do in the core, it's like, oh well, I could be cutting weight right now, I could be getting extra workout in, so I kind of look at that as the easier part. So yeah, they kind of go hand in hand. I see.
Well, to finish up, since I asked you the hardest day, what was your best day that you've experienced at the Citadel ever?
At the Citadel? Oh man, like you said, there's been a lot of bad days. There's been a lot of good days as well. At the Citadel, you know what? I really actually enjoyed rec day. That was one day that I came here, and I'm an athlete, so I'm not as engaged with the core as some of the other cadets. But I actually thoroughly enjoyed rec day because I didn't really have a lot of things to offer during being a knob. I wasn't the star knob. I didn't really get in trouble, but I never really stood out to them cadet-wise in the Corps. And then on rec day, they saw how physically, fit I was, and and that's what I had brought to the table. So I finally had a piece of the pie that I could put back in. Yeah. And that was actually really enjoyable to be, a part of rec day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Thomas, for coming and talking to me. You gave me such great answers for everything.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. So tune in, Bulldogs, next time. I will see you next week.